Thank you so much for staying tuned to International Forum. Sincere apologies for coming slightly behind schedule. We have to put everything in order for us to give you the show that you really have a long time talking about. Today, it's all about the US-Afghan Taliban peace talk, the impact in the peace process. Men have been talking about it since 2001. Remember the World Trade Center in New York? And that was how and when American troops entered Afghanistan in search of the leader then of Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden. Anyway, my analyst will be the one to throw more light on that. I'll just give you a story making the rounds. We'll talk about news around the world due to what we really have to talk about today. Let's move straight down to Israel. Yes, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, survived yet another election. As in the Israeli Prime Minister, victory in general election, claiming victory. It is not that easy because of so many allegations leveled against him, bordering on corruption. But many of the opinion that you just can't shake off this man because of the things he has achieved for Israel. Don't forget that he has a strong tie, this strong relationship with Donald Trump. And of course, other landmark achievements of this man you are seeing here, with the help of Donald Trump, was able to move the capital of Israel to where? Jerusalem. Moving from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. People are saying that this cannot and will never be done, but this man in connivance or with the assistance of Donald Trump made it possible. And of course, they gained more ground, yes, in the Gaza Strip. So tell me, with all these achievements, do you think this man will be a man that will easily be defeated? Anyway, corruption allegations notwithstanding, the man is jubilating and for what it promises going to be a new era for the Israelis. Let's see how he's going to continue in making Israel greater again, because already great. So let's say greater Israel depends on how we choose to run the government as a prime minister. All right, now that is it for the news around the world. I just can't go beyond this because we have guests here in the studio really wanting to talk about what is happening in Afghanistan. You may say it doesn't concern you. Believe me, it concerns you because terrorism in a part of the world and the way they are being handled have this ripple effect in other parts of the world. Remember the 2001, yeah, and of course also all the rigorous activities put in place to get one man, Osama bin Laden, and ever since then some American presidents have come, they've gone saying they're going to withdraw troops from Afghanistan. None of them have successfully done it, but here is this man, Donald Trump. He made a promise of moving the capital of Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And now he said he's going to broker a peace process that will allow their own children, their own soldiers to come back home. He talked about removing at least 5,000 troops first, or 1,000 troops or thereabout. But he's going to do it that Afghanistan should have this collaboration with the so-called terrorists, in quote, make them part of the government, Taliban. When you hear about Taliban, you know what that means. Well, with me here in the studio to really talk about this, I have Stanley sitting very close to me, a political analyst, public affairs commentator, Williams Owaifo. Welcome to International Forum.
Thank you, Wilson.
I appreciate your coming.
Good afternoon, viewer.
All right. Sitting very close to him is a lecturer from Uniben. Joining to welcome. I don't want to use the word comrade right now. I always call him comrade. Comrade Felix. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate your coming. And I have two legal practitioners sitting side by side, the one on white. Yes, Heron Wowzer. Welcome to International Forum.
Good afternoon,
and yeah, we have a new face here with us in the studio. Yeah, for the debut for International Forum, Barrister Douglas Amoigui. Barrister, welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure. Good afternoon, viewers.
As is with the tradition, I start my introduction. You're going to start up with the opening of this discussion.
Right.
How do you feel about all this? I mean, an agreement was reached. Yes, there was still an agreement until a counter request now came into the scene, threatening the fabric of what Donald Trump is trying to achieve in Afghanistan. Take it up from there.
Well, first and foremost, I would like to commend the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, for this giant and marvelous achievement that he has attained. we all know that the United States military involvement in Afghanistan has spanned through over 18 years. And while he was campaigning in 2016, he made a solemn promise to the American citizens that he is going to withdraw the United States from every active war that they are participating in at the time. And we have seen from the events that have been transpiring over the years, for the past 3 years that he has been the President of the United States. And we have witnessed that he has been making serious efforts to make sure that these issues are sorted out. So it's quite commendable, and I really appreciate him for this. Concerning the peace deal between the Taliban and the United States, like I said, this is a really good development, not only for the United States, but the world in general. It's really commendable. But we all know that in the beginning of a peace alliance or treaty, as the case may be, there may be rancor, there may be some elements of dissatisfaction among parties. Well, we witnessed that with the Camp David Accord. In the late 70s between Egypt and
Israel?
Israel. Egypt and Israel. So we witnessed so many discrepancies surrounding that treaty. Right. So at the end of the day, even successive leaders of these countries, they adhered to the terms of this alliance or the treaty, as the case may be. So what I am of the opinion, or what I am deliberating upon, is that these issues will be sorted out in due time.
All right. I will come back to you on that. From the beginning of your own statement, you commended Donald Trump, saying it's a healthy development for the world. Barrister Harry, do you have an alternate view?
Not really. I still buy the same idea, because what the world needs now is peace. And for the fact that he has mooted the idea of that peace, and those who are principal actors are equally interested in that peace, I see nothing bad in it. And I believe that if parties actually looked at the terms of agreement and they abide by that terms of the agreement, at the end of the day, I see peace coming to Afghanistan. Though initially there will be some challenges, which we know. Just like we were looking at it from the angle that the Taliban are saying that they need their 5,000 prisoners released in swap to 1,000 of the Afghanistan soldiers, which is equally an issue as it were now. But I know at the end of the day, parties will come to a roundtable conference and agree and then move forward.
All right, parties will come to a roundtable conference and you're happy with what Donald Trump is doing. Comrade Sareme, do you have a kind of a view that is opposed to theirs?
No. My take on it is that it's a good move. And in negotiation, you do not expect to get everything you ask for. What is important is that people are able to come together and to reach a compromise. And in negotiation, you use the philosophy of give and take. In negotiation, we have what we call the Mexican standoff. In the Mexican standoff, it means that at the end of it all, every party to that transaction, to that deal, will walk away with something they can hold on to and say, this is what they got from this effort. So what Donald Trump is saying is not new. It was part of his campaign promise, and he's going to put it into proper conclusion. Mike Pompeo has been there to discuss with people on ground, and if this is going to bring peace to that war-torn country, it's a good move. But there are some reservations that we are having right now. One of the reservations is that the American government ordinarily does not negotiate with terrorists.
I was coming to that. You just hold on, because we are going to deliberate on this. Is that not a slap on the American Constitution? Because they've always had a stand. We do not negotiate with terrorists. Before going to that, Williams' wife, they said what Donald Trump is doing is apt. After all, is like what we use the pidgin in this palace, talk and do. He's doing all he has promised American people, the citizens, even the world. How do you feel about this?
I also believe that any call for peace is a positive development, and but I watch with a lot of cautious optimism because of the erratic nature of the person in the White House. It's very hard to say, okay, this thing is locked down, because I mean, we've seen him celebrate unduly even before he's victorious at setting up a deal. He starts to tout it as a victory lap. My concerns with President Trump is that he's too concerned about the pomp and pageantry that goes with some of these deals, that he forgets the substance of it.
Is it all about Trump or about the peace process?
That's what I'm saying. Because if you remember, Kim Jong-un is still carrying out missile tests till tomorrow. Donald Trump went on Twitter to celebrate that he was the first American. I mean, what's the big deal being the first American president to meet with a North Korean leader, a dissident leader? This is someone who, he takes pleasure in killing his own people. And you and I know that America has always been anti-such government. And for you to be celebrating your meeting with such a person as a first, I mean, it's demeaning to the office of the President of the United States. So back to the deal that is being worked on now. It's not a deal yet. So before you start commending Trump and saying that, oh, he's fine, he's working on something, but how do we know that this is not another, election year, tactics or something to just
We'll get to that. It is about the election also.
So I'm still very concerned because the person in the White House is not a detailed person. He's not really concerned with world peace. He's more about the pomp and pageantry that is attached to this.
Okay, now for what you're saying, it's all about the person in the White House. You talked about his erratic nature. I'll get back to you on that. Now, Barrister Douglas.
Yes.
You've heard contrasting opinions and views from yours coming from Williams. But before that, let us dabble into what a comrade Felix talked about. Negotiating with terrorists. Has America descended so low? Is it a kind of a low ebb for America, or a victory for terrorism? Because right now, it's like they're breaking their norms. And people like to see your face. Please take off that dark glasses. It's too dark. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
So take it up from there.
Okay. First and foremost, I want to state categorically that the Taliban is not expressly a terrorist group.
But we attack terrorist group.
By
the United States. Don't forget that.
Not this administration. It may be with previous administration, but as far as Donald Trump administration is concerned, the Taliban is not a terrorist group. If you want to trace their history, the history of the Taliban, one may discover that the Taliban actually emanated from the Mujahideen. The Mujahideen was a covert operation by the United States government during the invasion of the Soviet Union in the Afghan territory in the late 80s. Yes, that's how, because from after the war, the victory on the part of the Mujahideen set, the Taliban and the Al-Qaeda was bettered. You understand? So it's not actually a terrorist group. But at the end of, on the long run, or prior to the 9/11 attack, the Taliban actually gave the Al-Qaeda network that is headed by the late Osama bin Laden a kind of a safe haven in Afghanistan in order to run the operation. But it is wrong to say that Taliban as an organization is a terrorist group.
Okay.
No, I'm not done yet. Okay. It's very wrong to say that it's a terrorist organization. Because if you look at it, if you look at the Afghan government as it stands now, you will notice that the Taliban actually runs the operations or the government of the day before the invasion of Bush, yes, of the United States forces in Afghanistan. So it's not ideal to call Taliban a terrorist group. Okay. It's really not ideal. Okay. But if we are to look at it in another dimension, we all know that they have been conducting attacks, series of attacks in this thing. If you look at it from that aspect, it is, you may be right to call them a terrorist group.
All right, you just hold on now.
Yes.
That means you are like dabbing between two ideas.
Yes.
But I'll come back to you on that. Now, about the cracking of the rules, so to speak, by the U.S., because that word is so firm. George Bush was how will I put that? Was it a mantra, or he was even into it? We do not negotiate with terrorists. Bill Clinton also, though he tried to win it on each a little bit, he still didn't negotiate with terrorists. Barack Obama stood firm until it got to a point he really had to like release some generals, and there was a negotiation. And now here comes Donald Trump. Come on, these are your people, terrorists or not terrorists. You have to form part of the government. Take it up from there, Barrister Henry.
Well, from my own point of view, sometimes you have to give in some to enable you get that what you want. I know Donald Trump has looked at just as my friend here has actually said, the Taliban group, you cannot completely say they are a terrorist group.
But in the American watch list, they are terrorists.
You see, that is the name which was given to him. You understand what I'm talking about? And the man who gave the name as it were then, or the government that gave the name as it were then, they have their reason for saying so. But, you know, as time evolves, the man who is in helm of affairs today have able to sit down, look at the activities of these persons, look at their role which they have played in Afghanistan and other parts of the world where they are, and also decided that the best way out, because they cannot continuously be fighting. The people of Afghanistan, they need peace in their country, and the only way out is you look at the parties who are involved in this crisis. What do we do? How do we get out of the lockdown? And I believe that is what Donald Trump is doing presently as it were. So labeling them as a terrorist group or taking the position which other past leaders of the United States have done in terms of the world has, times have changed. We are no longer living in the past as it were. Things are evolving day in, day out. Certain positions you take at each point in time, you try to change it as it were, for the benefit of the people, not for your own, especially for your own benefit as it were.
So you want to call them repentant terrorists?
But I'm saying that what I'm trying to say in essence is not that they are repentant terrorists as it were, but the government has seen that we cannot continue to hold that hardliner position on issues of this nature. Because at the end of the day, it is the same people who suffer. America has been there for over 18 years. They have been there. But has that succeeded in doing anything to the life of the people? Day in, day out, people are killed in Afghanistan and other parts of all these Arab nations. So what we're trying to say in essence is that if peace is the only way out to get out of the lockdown, I see nothing bad in it.
All right. I know you have so much to say, so take it up from there.
Well, the national interest of the United States is the primary consideration that will motivate President Trump to make a decision. But he does not make that decision in a vacuum. There's the National Security Advisor, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and other security apparatus that he must have considered, the CIA, even some of the allies. Now, if you take all this into consideration, you will find that when Trump visited India, that was where the hint first came out that there is going to be a rapport between the American government and the Taliban. Even right in India, there, people already expressing reservations. Are you going to start negotiating with terrorists? Are you going to now change time-tested policy that the American government has cast in concrete? Are you suddenly going to change these things? But Trump is explaining that he made a categorical statement as at the time he was campaigning that he's going to pull American forces back home. And that the situation on ground now does not represent a situation where he can suddenly just move the force out without having a stand-back position, which is that the government should reach a possible understanding with those elements. Because as it is clear that the Taliban cannot be totally removed from Afghanistan, because they were the government at the time. Taliban was in charge of the running of the administration of Afghanistan as a country. And some countries can actually be labeled as terrorists supporting governments. Libya has been classified like that before under Gaddafi then. Libya was classified as a country that was involved in state-sponsored terrorism. Israel is described as that by Arab nations. So the appellation can be given. But the Taliban was not a group. It was a government. So it will be difficult, therefore, to wish them away in this negotiation. Trump is being very, very pragmatic here. He wants to pull American soldiers home. He is saying that it is time for the Afghanistan government and people to take responsibility for their own internal security. What America will be doing will be collaborative. As of last night, I was watching CNN, and they did say that, yes, for 18 years long, they've been in this theater of activity. It is time to pull the boys home. But in bringing the boys home, something has to be put in place. And to put something in place, this is what he is proposing. Sit down with the Taliban, they are your people, find a working formula to make sure that you are able to proceed therefore. But the government of Afghanistan today is saying no, because the condition that Taliban is giving is not going to be a very difficult one to meet. We are asking that they should release 5,000 prisoners, in essence for 1,000 on the government side. The government is saying no, because in negotiation you negotiate from a position of strength.
Okay.
And the government in this situation, with the support of America, is stronger than the Taliban. But Taliban can become a continuous irritant. If you have ulcer, you'll be told, do not eat pepper. That doesn't mean you shouldn't eat food that doesn't have spice at all. But you have to make sure that you moderate the consumption of spice so that you will not suffer grave internal damage. So the situation Trump is looking at now is, you are bringing American soldiers home. You are going to spend less, but you make more. Because if Trump pulls out American soldiers, Trump will now supply them weapons and necessary surveillance equipment. So at the end of the day, he will get what he wants and lose less. So Trump is looking more at America's national interest.
Okay.
And the government of Afghanistan is also beginning to look at their own interest. India even complained that if you are going to make a deal with Taliban, you are going to look at the regional security factor, because these people are a consistent problem in the whole of that sub-region.
Okay.
So Trump is not just speaking in a vacuum. He's not acting out of the box. This is a long-term plan. Of course, there are going to be dissenting voices, and as I said, a lot of people are having misgivings. They are expressing fears. They are saying it's going to change the policy. The policy has not openly been overthrown. No, because Al-Qaeda was actually the terrorist group that flew under the cover of the Taliban. Taliban provided operational bases for them, provided necessary support and logistics, and they needed a place like Afghanistan that was very difficult terrain to hide and perpetrate their acts. So Trump is not actually dealing directly with a terrorist organization. He's dealing with an insurgent group in a country, and they were giving room for terrorist organizations to actually flower.
Okay, now
it's a different thing.
if you are giving room to terrorist organization to flourish, what does that make you?
If you are a king, sorry.
Over to you. No, hold on.
When you are about to say, I will help you to understand the argument very well. Because you begin to actually say that the government is now a terrorist supporting government. You are not careful. It will change very soon, because we are having a situation like that in Nigeria now.
Okay.
We are still going to start accusing Chad now of sponsoring terrorism, because Boko Haram has been operating from Chad into Nigeria, from Nigeria to Chad.
Okay, fine. Not to worry. Now William
has now openly come out to support the insurgency we are having.
The Montanto Task Force. No, they are members of Montanto Task Force. They are supporting Nigeria.
Right now,
Exactly.
let's leave Nigeria out of the picture right now. Let's go to Taliban.
Okay, hold on now.
Okay.
Because let's not even forget how
I'll give you an
the
analogy.
Taliban emerged in 1994 after the Afghan Soviet civil war. And then there was a vacuum. They came out and started ruling the country. And then they provided a safe haven for Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups. In fact, it was after, because even there was a deal between them and the US then not to allow
And don't forget, it was the US that supported them too.
Exactly. And then you provided a safe haven for Al-Qaeda. And then in 1998, Osama bin Laden led Al-Qaeda forces, started attacking US embassies.
Yes.
And then the US were concerned and they started asking questions. the Taliban government, what is going on? And then in 2001, the ultimate attack happened, 9/11 happened. And then George Bush reached out to the Taliban government, give us this guy, he's our prime suspect. And then they said no, that they needed more evidence from the American government to show that Osama bin Laden was actually involved in 9/11. And that was how the problem actually started. And the US had to invade Afghanistan and drove the Taliban out of government. So my question is, if you are a kingpin, you don't go on the street to sell drugs, and then you have your boys peddling the drugs for you, are you not going to just hold the boys peddling the drugs, or the person who is the major supplier of the drugs? Because the Taliban government here is the one backing these guys, giving them a safe haven. You make sure that the place is conducive for their terrorist activities. In fact, up until this year, terrorist groups are still attacking from using the support of the Taliban government. So if you say they should not label them a terrorist group, I wonder who fits that narrative more than the Taliban, because they are consistently aggressors in that region. And they've made sure that nothing in that government is stable. They keep attacking. They come from Pakistan. Some of them are within Afghanistan, and they keep attacking. So if you say, and now coming to the President of the United States, if you say, okay, he has the right to say, okay, they are not a terrorist group, this is his own administration. This is the problem the world has been having with Trump. Because whatever his predecessors do, he tries to go against it because you want to be a first. You are not concerned about the long term. When you are talking about long term, Trump is in this for the long haul. I don't think he's in it for the long haul. He's just always concerned about the photo ops and the publicity to bring to him. Oh, he's the first. Obama couldn't do it. George Bush couldn't do it. I did it. You are not concerned. You are not concerned with what those people had to deal with, why they could not do it. But you are more concerned with being the first person to do. That's the cautious optimism I was talking about. I cannot really bank on him because he did the same thing with Kim Jong-un. The world is still facing the threat from the nuclearization of North Korea till tomorrow. They still test their missiles. You were so quick to concede your position of power. You were literally begging the man to come and sit with you, the President of the United States. And you are here touting him as a very strong leader. He always operates from a position of weakness because you concede too many things, because you are too concerned about the photo ops attached to what you are trying to do.
Is it about the photo ops or about the American soldiers out there in Afghanistan?
When you say the American soldiers, you also tell me he was putting America first when he was asking for Joe Biden to be investigated. He was putting America first.
Very political.
2020, we are not pretending to love America so much and trying to pull back forces. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying anything that has to do with peace is good. But how do we trust this guy if his motivations are always personal and not for the interest of all?
Okay, all right. Now, let me come to you, Douglas. I know that Comrade Felix has so much to say, but you just want to get to your turn if time permits. Time will permit, why not?
Of course.
Now, he's talking from a point of view, saying this is all politically motivated. That is not about putting America first. That is like personal. After all, Comrade Felix talked about Trump gaining from this process. There'll be sales of weapons, and America will be the one to supply those weapons, thereby give them enough money. You save your soldiers and make profit. Is it all about the U.S. election approaching later part of this year?
Before I answer your question, I feel it's important we add to what
all of that reaction to what? Yes. So what Williams said.
Yes, it's very important. Okay. Trump administration has declared the Iranian Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist group. Does that connote in the actual context that the Iranian National Military is actually a terrorist group?
If they've been killing people.
No. This is a country's military that this present dispensation, administration, as the case may be, is labeling as a terrorist organization. So what I'm trying to say is that every policy of an incumbent administration, it's all about their own aspect or perspective concerning a particular people or organization. If previous administration is labeling or are labeling Taliban as a terrorist group, that does not really connote. That does not really mean that Taliban is actually a terrorist group. Now, back to your question. I feel that what Trump is doing right now is actually for the interest of the American people.
Not for Trump's own interest?
Not for Trump's own interest. Now, we know Trump, or we have been following Trump activities while as president of the United States. If you notice, jobs are returning back to the United States. Companies or organizations that have migrated or that has left the United States, that have left the United States as the result of cheap labor, they are returning back to the United States, thereby creating more jobs for the Americans. So, are you trying to say that this policy of the Trump administration, it's personal in nature? It's not. For crying out loud, he is a billionaire. He's a businessman. He's a business tycoon. And he has companies. He has franchise outside the United States.
Williams, hold on now. He has the floor. You react to that. Come on. You react to that. He has the floor.
He has companies outside the United States. So for him to say or making policies and, telling those multinational companies that, no, you have to return back to the United States or else I withdraw your license. That shows that, yes, this man has the interest of the people at heart. So it's very wrong to say that what Trump is doing right now is all about personal aggrandizement or interest.
All right. Okay.
Now, I don't know if you have been discussing with Americans on social media. They are fed up with war. Back in the 1940s and the 50s, America loved going to war. They liked war. In fact, they were so enthusiastic trying to compel their government to participate in the Second World War. But after the Vietnam War down to this present dispensation, the contemporary times, they are fed up going to war. In fact, an average American woman or family wants their children back home. So what he's doing as a president of the United States, as a POTUS, is trying to make America a happier society. And it would be very wrong to say that all what he's doing, it's all about personal interest or personal glory.
All right. Barrister Henry, you've heard of both of them. I know many of you have, most of you have so much to say about Williams' position, but he's still maintaining his own position.
No, he has right.
Now, let's take a look at this. He talked about the issue of trust, and he gave a very strong example of what happened in North Korea. Kim Jong-un, like what he rightly said, is still carrying out nuclear activities. He has not totally followed what they have signed for, and nothing has been done about that. Now take a look at the case of Iran. Despite the fact that there's an outbreak of coronavirus, we still have the issue also of Iran. Can this process sail through, picking on these examples?
Well, what is important is that the man has shown that in actual fact he wants peace. Because the major thing is for now is that the people need peace. You see what happened in Libya when the Americans came and said Muammar Gaddafi has done this, Muammar Gaddafi has done that. They succeeded in ensuring that the man was eliminated. Today, go to Libya, there is no peace in Libya. So what the man is trying to say is that the Afghanistans on their own are tired, which I know of the truth. They are tired of the war that is going on in their country. They are not moving on as a nation. And the man is not saying that let us come down to a roundtable conference and agree so that we can move on as a people. And I see that working. Notwithstanding the fact that as an individual, just as my friend here has rightly said, you have uncertainties you want to show. Yes, a man who is in a position of authority, he wants to be remembered for something. He wants to be remembered at the point in time I was the American president. I was able to do this, I was able to do that.
The bragging right.
You understand that? It's human nature. You'll be able to show that he has succeeded in doing this. Even if he has mooted the idea, just as he has mooted the idea, well, maybe completely it was not completed, maybe during his administration, or maybe administration will finally come, they were able to have a permanent peace in Afghanistan. But somebody has started it. That is what matters most. So I see it from that angle, not really only that you want to show that he has done something as a president of America, but I also want to see that it is for the primary interest of the people. The American soldiers who have been there, over 12,000 of them, they have been there in Afghanistan. And he said that he wants to withdraw. I think 5,000 of them are living around 8,600, pending, after 135 days. The families of these persons are happy to ensure that their sons and daughters are back home, because some of them have been there for years. Some have even lost other things that would have done as a youth, but because of this job they have taken, as you know, it has affected. So I know Americans, they too will be happy to see that Americans that are dying day in, day out, in order, because this war, it does not concern them as it were. Accepted that it was because of the attack of the Al-Qaeda that made them to attack Afghanistan. But the reason for going there, I don't think, though terrorism is a thing that you cannot completely wipe away. It's not like in Nigeria, every day bandits here, Boko Haram here, because you have splinter groups. The main group, which is the Al-Qaeda, will be there, but you have other, you have other splinter groups, that are there, over 20 of them. So you cannot completely wipe them away, because other groups will want to show that they equally have relevance.
All right. Now, so what you have to say in the discussion, I want to take a look at it also from this angle. Now, you talked about Al-Qaeda. They are still very much on the ground. They've been defeated. And from research and, of course, reports of investigation, the Taliban gave them a soft landing to operate from Afghanistan. Now, with the withdrawal of this troop, with this deal on the table, I think it's going to give rise yet again for this terrorist group to flourish. After all, there'll be no checks and balance. They're all pally-pallies, as in bed bodies and all that.
Let's go back a little bit to history.
All right.
So that we can understand some of these arguments very well. There was a time it was said that Rome was the world and the world was Rome. The Roman Empire became the dominant power in the world. And the Roman Empire entered into a situation called triumphalism. After conquering all the known powers, they were now asking, who is left to be conquered? America is already entering the overreach. From being a global power, you became a superpower, you have now reached hyperpower. All the discussion we always ask, it's always America. We have other superpowers. China doesn't bother about who is throwing bomb at who. Russia doesn't bother. It's always the US. And meanwhile, the US gets the greatest castigation. At a point, if the president now says, I want my people back home, but I will continue to remain relevant, there's nothing wrong with that. I think we should start consulting our ideas. That's why I told Williams, I said, Williams, don't worry. I'm not saying that the Al-Qaeda itself or the Taliban, they are not involved in terror tactics. Hamas, Hezbollah, they are described as terrorist organizations. We have ISWAP now, which is tied to Al-Qaeda. We have Al-Shabaab in East Africa. We have different groups. The Rohingya fight that happened in Myanmar, there were people that were attacked, they classified it as, because it was a national movement, they said it was an act of genocide. The military that planned it, if they were a splinter group, they would have been called a terrorist group. FARC in South America, those ones have just laid down their arms. The man that the president that led them to that argument, to that agreement, eventually was given a Nobel Prize.
Even the Kurdish fighters also.
That is the point.
All right.
They could fight for a long time. At a point, you said, no, okay, we've had enough of this fight. Words rule men. After every major activity, you must go back to the negotiating table. True. The American government under Trump has now seen a new direction. You tied it to that of Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un is still a sitting president. The country is solidly behind him. And Kim Jong-un is doing what he's doing because China is backing him. If you are listening to the bird, if you see bird dancing by the path, it is not that bird that you should be seeing. You should be looking where the sound is coming from.
Underground.
China is what the US is dealing with, not necessarily Kim Jong-un. If it is necessary, Trump can have the man removed. But is China going to allow the man to be removed? Just as if saying, or even Russia, you say you want to remove Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. Trump will not agree. So every major power has a satellite that they use as their alter ego. That is what is always playing out. The case of the Taliban right now is that they don't have a major backing anymore. Russia, of course, they fought with Russia, US SARO. So those ones did not actually surmount them. Now they have come to...
Because America supported
them.
Yeah.
Now they ran against American interests. America ran into their country and destabilized everywhere. They have reconstructed the country to the way they want it now. So they can now say what they want to say to this. But that's why I said Trump is going to be, for him, it's going to be a win-win situation. If he pulls out American soldiers, he will be able to still sell arms and ammunition and surveillance devices to the same country. He has lost nothing. That is somebody that you should commend. The element of trust that you are talking about, it is true. It is never easy to know the construct of the heart from a man's face. No matter what we say about Trump's dealings with Kim Jong-un, if China puts his foot down today, say Kim Jong-un, okay, stand, reverse all those your missile tests, you see it will disappear. So China is the power that the US is pushing. That's why the trade war that happened was for a reason. When Trump began to push the trade, people thought the trade war would not give Trump an eye. Trump stood up to China, no, you will back. China backs down. That is power at work.
Still not signed.
They don't have to sign. We have seen the change. Money has started flowing back to the US. Companies are US companies was outsourcing jobs. So they are coming back to the US. That's how a president doesn't just talk. You will see it working. It's happening live and direct. So if Trump is doing that, Trump has already likely won his second term. Effortlessly. I'm using the word likely.
Likely, okay, right.
Now, when we are doing analysis of this, you should be looking at all the permutations. It's not just one line of thought. Whether Trump is singing from both sides of his mouth, every man will sing his own praise. Yes. If you don't sing your own praise, as the lizard will tell you that if he falls from a height and nobody praises him, he will praise himself. So, if Trump doesn't praise himself, who will praise Trump? And this is his day in the sun. So leave him to have his day. I tell you, Williams, leave Trump to have his day. If Trump is doing anything outside the American Constitution, the American Constitution is there to restrain. All right, the system there is very functional.
Okay.
Every administration comes in to build up on the system that has been created. What Trump is doing now, yesterday, the General Miley was on TV on CNN talking of some of the challenges, but he said, but this policy will be followed through. We have not seen the whole picture. We are looking at some arising traditions, but we are going to push it through. Right. Mike Pompeo is saying the same thing. This is how governments work. You bring a policy, you say, okay, let us look at all the challenges. But this policy, what is the end point?
The end game.
That is what Trump is pushing at. And if it works, America will stand to gain a lot, and the world will likely be a safer place. But terrorism will not end.
Okay, over to you. Over to you, Williams. React to what he said.
If you talked about, if you're talking about trust, why trust is so important, coming from the angle of the President of the United States. And we've always known government in the United States to be continuous, be it a Republican or Democratic.
Yeah.
But what we have seen in recent times, considering the Trump administration, is a deviation, an almost total deviation of what America used to stand for. Yeah, of most of the things America used to stand for. I mean, Congress will ask for or will subpoena White House staff. Officials. He would refuse them going. He doesn't believe in separation of power. This is a man who dabbles into the Justice Department and doesn't feel anything is wrong. So when I say, I was telling you the other day that the man runs America as like a third world president, you thought I was being too critical. I'm not being too critical. These are things that we pass up on in Africa and just say, oh, it's okay, and that's how we do things here. But when you
he has the floor.
Those are things that we used to see in African presidents, and we say, oh. So I'm surprised because I think off camera, when we are talking now, you say, it's an African president. That's the way they behave. But the president of the United States does it, and you give him a free pass. This is a man who insults the press and doesn't believe in freedom of the press.
But the court restrained the pass that he withdrew from the CNN.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to say, no, the system works. That's why the law is given the power. He would want to put some things on hold. These are things that we have known America for. And you rail against Obama. Now you rail against the FBI. You rail against the CIA.
Let him lie.
Yes. So you rail against the CIA. These are agencies that institutions that other parts of the world look at with so much awe and respect. You denigrate them in front of an adversary, and then you expect trust, because tomorrow, when there is a national security problem in America, you are still going to rely on the CIA and the FBI's reports, because you tell everybody you know better than everybody. You know better than the generals.
But Williams, what about
No.
all Trump is doing right now? Is it wrong?
What I'm not trying to say is that
you've been hammering on the man, but what is doing right now?
Yes,
is it right or wrong?
Yes, because let's not forget.
Yes.
You've been there since 2017. You didn't investigate Joe Biden. You didn't investigate him in 2018. Here comes 2019. You know, the year just before the election, and you want an investigation into the man, and you don't want us to think it's political. This war has been on for 18 years. You didn't resolve it in 2017. You didn't. So if I'm saying I'm watching with so much caution, you can't blame me.
No,
so the trust issue is a major problem here. If we, the Taliban, let's say the Taliban now are looking at these issues, can we trust the President of the United States? What if he just wants us to sign a deal and then he wins his presidency and starts to tout this as a victory in his campaign tour, and then after winning he reneges? Because we've seen this over and over again. Even the Iran nuclear deal that his predecessor signed, he didn't want to look at where some of the issues were to tweak them.
It was made by irregularities.
You just wanted to tear it up because you were not the one who signed it.
All right, gentlemen, 30 seconds each to summarize this issue, because we have barely 2 minutes to call it a wrap on this show. Okay. I'm going to start off with you. I'm going to start off with you, Douglas. With this request by the Taliban, 5,000 to 1,000, do you see it working? 30 seconds.
As a matter of fact, I do. I do. The problem now is that it's not the relationship between Taliban and the United States government. Well, the problem actually is the relationship between Taliban and the Afghan government. Yes, because from what we have been noticing for the past 3 days is that the intra-Afghan talks, what they mean by the intra-Afghan talks, that is
the government Taliban, and the Taliban.
Yes,
okay.
They have been having a rocky start.
Okay, thank you.
Rocky start. So
thank you.
I think if that can be ameliorated,
okay,
it's a way forward.
Thank you so much, Barrister Douglas. Barrister Henry, 30 seconds, please.
To me, I know at the end of the day, parties will always come to the roundtable conference. Issues will be addressed. Yeah. It will not be a win-win situation. It will be you take your own, I take my own. Okay. I know at the end of the day, they will agree.
Okay, they must surely come to an agreement.
Yeah.
All right, Comrade Felix.
Well,
30 seconds.
The agreements will eventually be reached. There are difficult points. Yeah. There are some red herrings that are flung from all parties to gain better leverage. And we do hope that for the sake of international development, they will reach a conclusive deal that will favor the parties and will de-escalate the incidence of acts of terror and violence in that region and other parts of the world.
Well, thank you so much. Williams, 30 seconds.
I do hope that the deal is respected, but the Taliban, being a very dissident organization, has proven time and time again that they are not a set of people to follow laws and regulations. So I doubt, but I'm hoping that
you doubt, but you are hopeful.
An end to the war.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate a wonderful analysis. Thank you so much. Let's see if these will definitely come to pass. Mind you, Malian president choose to negotiate with the terrorists in Mali, bring them into the government. Donald Trump right now is telling the Taliban and of course the government of Afghanistan to come work together. Would that be another step in the fight against terrorism? Negotiating with terrorists for a lasting peace to ensure globally. See you next week. Bye for now.
This is ITV. Certainly the best.